everyone, and welcome to Not Just Numbers, Honest Conversations with the Financial Advisor and Lawyer. I am Madison Demora, and I am here with Mike Garry. Mike is a financial advisor and a CFP practitioner and the founder and the CEO of Yardley Wealth Management. He is also an estate planning lawyer, and his law firm is Yardley Estate Planning. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Maddie, how are you?
Good, good.
Another
Happy
beautiful
Monday.
Monday. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, and we got rain last night.
Finally, right?
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yes. Alrighty. So today we are going to discuss an article from the Wall Street Journal, and it is titled When Changing Their Jobs, Workers Neglect Their 401k Plans. And this is by Anne Tergesen. Alrighty, so like previous episodes, I will read a summary and ask Mike some questions. All right, so here is the summary. The article discusses how switching jobs, while often beneficial for salary growth, can negatively impact retirement savings, particularly in 401k plans. According to research from Vanguard, many people fail to maintain or increase their 401k contributions after changing jobs. Some forget to enroll in their new employer's plan, while others are auto enrolled at lower savings rates. This can lead to a significant reduction in retirement savings over a lifetime, up to $300,000 less than average earners. Even though 401ks were designated to be portable, the study shows that workers who change jobs often experience dips in their contribution rates, which can allow a sawtooth pattern of up and downs. Vanguard found that 64% of job switchers received a raise, but only 44% maintained or increased their savings rate. The article highlights the long-term cost of not maintaining steady contributions, as well as the challenges workers face in staying on track with their retirement savings during job transitions. It also discusses potential solutions, such as auto-enrolling workers at higher rates and allowing employers to carry over contribution rates from previous jobs. All right, Mike. So, how do you think switching jobs affects people's ability to maintain steady contributions to their 401k plans?
Well, apparently it's a big deal. I mean, this article was kind of shocking. The article came out about 5 weeks ago, and I reread it this morning. Thanks for getting that to me. And that was surprising. Like you would think people switching jobs for more pay would at least maintain with their contribution rate, if not increase it, but that is not the case. So it's surprising. I think that one of the things they said in the article is, switching jobs is such a big overhaul in your life for a lot of people, even though people do it fairly frequently. It's such a big thing that the 401k kind of gets lost. And they either don't do it so that a default sets in, or if the employer doesn't have the default, maybe they save nothing. So yeah, it's apparently a big deal.
Yeah. All right. So, why do many job switchers fail to sign up for their new employer's 401k plan or end up with lower saving rates after a job change?
Yeah, I think they don't get around to it. We have some people, some clients who are like very, they get into the part of their career where they can save the max, and so they're really good at remembering that. And so they say, okay, well, I could save 23,500 this year or 30,000, depending on their age. So they do that. But for a lot of other people, you forget what you're saving, right? If you're saving 6.5% of your salary and you go to sign up for a new one, you might not remember what you were doing before, right? So you think, oh, okay, well, maybe 5% is okay. And maybe 5% is okay, but it's not okay for most people. So, yeah, I think that with everything else, the 401k contribution rate is kind of like the forgotten piece in transferring to a new job.
Okay. All right. The Vanguard study suggests job switchers can end up with significantly less retirement savings over their careers. What are some strategies to avoid this?
Sure, when you're switching jobs, you have to pay attention. Like, what were you saving before? Was that enough? And if you're getting a raise, should you do what you're doing before, or should you do more? right? When it's so shocking that so many people get a raise and then contribute less, they must see the big difference in their paychecks. And I guess it doesn't spur them to take that action. I guess, a lot of people are struggling, and a lot of times it's hard to pay for the things that you need to pay for. And so maybe some people are take it as a time to like reassess and like, okay, well, I'm going to pay off these other bills, or I'm going to do these other things with my extra cash flow. And I understand that, but it's something you might be disappointed in 20 years later when you retire. You're like, oh, well, I have $300,000 less than I would have if I just maintained the savings rate I had before. $300,000 is a lot of money for most people. That's a shocking amount to be short in your retirement. And that's based on like middle class earnings, median earnings. That's not based on somebody making $500,000 a year. That's based on somebody making like in the high five figures. So that's a lot to be short.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. So, how does the sawtooth pattern of 401k savings described in the article differ from the steady increase financial advisors typically recommend?
Sure. So the sawtooth pattern is, people start to increase their savings. They're at a job. They increase the percentage a little bit every year, every other year, and then they switch jobs, and it goes back down to the default rate, or if there's no default rate, maybe less. And then, they're there for a little bit and it starts to go increase again. And then they switch jobs and it goes back down again. Whereas, financial advisors would recommend, contributing at a rate that will work for retirement, and understanding that in the beginning of your career, you're also like saving for a house, paying down student loans, maybe paying for childcare. Like there's a lot of expensive things that are really hard in your 20s, 30s, and 40s, that get easier over time as you have time to earn a living and increase your non-retirement savings and pay for things that don't have to be repeated all the time. When you buy your first house and you have to fill it with furniture and you have to buy tools and stuff for working around the garden. A lot of this stuff is expensive, and frankly, you don't have to buy it too many times.
Yeah.
And so we understand that some of those costs are going to be a lot in the beginning. And so like everybody can't always necessarily save 20% of their pay or 15 or even 10% of their pay. But over time, I think most financial advisors would say as some of those one-off costs, as you pass them, it's time to increase your savings. And as you increase your pay, any of your pay that increases above what you need to just keep it with inflation, some part of that should probably be saved. I remember years ago somebody said like if you make you get a 3% raise, well, one of that 1% of that should go towards your non-tax deferred savings, like your regular savings. 1% of it or one third of it should go to your retirement savings. The other 1% is, like to increase like your regular cash flow, right? So some things are easier for you.
Yeah.
And that always kind of made sense to me. The saving has to be good and a little bit hard, but not onerous, right? Like it can't be just brutal, I don't think. And so, yeah, so that is very different than the sawtooth thing that actually happens for so many people. Yeah, again, that article is shocking to me. I'm
Yeah.
glad that we found it. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, of course. So, what role does automatic enrollment at lower saving rates play in the decline of retirement savings for job switchers? And should employers be more proactive in addressing this issue?
Yeah, that's hard to say, right? Like nobody likes being told what to do. Your new boss is already giving you all kinds of stuff. That the setting the defaults was a nudge that was thought up by behavioral economists, and it's a way of getting people to automatically enroll instead of having to take a step to enroll, and setting a default at 3% instead of zero. So it's better than it had been before. And I don't know if it makes sense to increase that or not. Or maybe employers should have conversations with their new employees to say, like, hey, are you saving enough? Right? As an employer, I don't want my employees to have, giant financial concerns or to make big financial mistakes. I'd like to, I have great employees. I want their lives to be good. I'd like to help any way I can. So yeah, it's a good question. Like I think the nudge from the employer is better than just trying to auto enroll at a higher rate, but it's hard.
Yeah.
I don't know what the right answer is really.
Okay. What impact do life changes, such as pay cuts or new personal priorities, have on 401k contributions after a job switch?
Yeah, they have a big impact, right? Like if you lose your job and you had a new, the study or the survey talked about people switching jobs and 2/3 of them got higher pay. Well, that means 1/3 of them had the same or lower pay, right? So not all job change is because the employee wants it. And so if you're going along and you're saving a certain percentage at a certain salary, and then you lose that job, and then you have to take one that's lower paying, it's understandable that your 401k contribution is going to decrease. Um, People have to figure out what they need to do in their circumstances. Now, I think the problem can be that the 401k contribution is like in the future for people and sometimes in the distant future. And so other priorities in their life take control. So if you need to make your mortgage payment and a car payment and your student loan payment and save for retirement, and then you're making 10% less or 15% less, you can't pay 15% less of your mortgage, right? So you could see why that happens. And it's unfortunate, but it's understandable too,
Yeah.
right? You have to pay your bills.
Yeah. Yeah. What are common mistakes people make when they roll over 401k funds into an IRA, and how can they avoid them?
Oh, that's a good question. Totally off the track of everything else here. So yeah, people make all kinds of mistakes. So sometimes they don't do anything with their 401k at their old job and they just keep it there and then forget it, neglect it. And that happens a lot. When we have new clients come in, they often roll over half dozen or more 401ks because they switch jobs every few years and don't do anything. So that's a bigger problem because at least when you roll your 401k into an IRA, you're taking an active step to do something. But one thing we found is that a lot of people just don't know and don't understand. And so they don't do anything. They think that their investments in their 401k are just going to automatically go to their IRA, and they don't. So there's people that wind up having cash in their IRAs for years because they don't understand or don't realize. And again, like people are busy, there's a lot of stuff to do, and it just doesn't get looked at. I mean, some other mistakes they make are like not diversifying. They'll buy like one fund because they hear something good about it or it's recommended by a neighbor or something. Um, yeah, I mean, I think those are really the two big things, like not investing at all, or then when they do invest it, not investing it according to any kind of like a plan or a strategy.
Okay. All right. How can financial advisors help clients avoid the pitfalls of falling behind on retirement savings after switching jobs?
Yeah, so financial advisors should talk to their clients when they switch jobs to make sure that their savings are on track, right? Because we can't know the future necessarily, but if we have a client who's 49 and they just changed jobs and they want to retire at 65, we have a pretty good idea of how much they need to save over that time. Like we could be pretty good about that.
Yeah.
And it's not just, oh, save everything you can. We could put good numbers on that. And so I think that for clients who don't have an advisor, they need to figure that out themselves. Um, and some certainly can, and some are good at it, and others probably could use some help and having some financial advice either from time to time or with ongoing financial advisory services. Yeah, it's something we could help with a lot. And you know, in addition to like getting the number right, it provides a lot of peace of mind. If somebody's 15 years from retirement and they've just been saving for the last 30 years and they're good at that, and maybe they make a pretty good amount of money too. Um, I think it provides a nice peace of mind if somebody says to you, okay, well, you're on track and these are the things you need to do to make sure that you're in pretty good shape. And I think people like that, right?
Yeah.
It's nice to know that you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
It's good to have
Absolutely.
somebody else who does it for a living say like, hey, yeah, you're on track.
Yeah. That can make all the difference.
It could. It
All
could.
right. So the article highlights the long-term financial impact of slowing retirement savings. How should job switchers balance the short-term needs of a new job and the long-term needs for retirement security?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is actually thinking about it and weighing the pros and cons of your different decisions, and coming up with a plan, so you know what you're doing is the right thing. I think what the article kind of says, but doesn't really get into, is that I think for a lot of people they're just overwhelmed. A new job is hard. You need to like sign up for your new insurance, all the other benefits. You have a new schedule. You might be going into the office instead of working from home. You have all this stuff going on, and the 401k is just pushing a couple buttons. And people don't get to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the big thing is take a look at it. Like, what if you're switching jobs and it's because it's something you want to do? Well, then you should have a plan,
Yeah.
right? And then if you're switching jobs and it wasn't your choice, well, again, you need to figure out like how to best help your situation. And maybe that means spending some time on it, running some numbers, thinking through things, doing some research. But it's better to do that than to get to be 65 and wind up being short, and realizing you're going to just have to work for indefinitely or longer.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, Mike, is there anything else you want to add to this article?
Yeah, so just thinking that you've never done this, right? You've never switched
No.
jobs and had to switch, right? This is your first 401k,
Yeah.
and hopefully we'll make things good enough here for you that you never have to do that, and you just keep growing that money and retire a rich lady one day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, this was great. Thanks, Maddie.
Awesome.
This is a good choice on articles. I had forgotten how surprising these Vanguard findings were. So I
Yeah.
think great.
Yeah. The numbers were definitely very significant.
Yeah, startling to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like almost hard to believe. Yeah.
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 Yep.
Yeah. So if anyone's interested on reading that article, you can always find it in the description below. For more information on Yardley Wealth Management or Yardley Estate Planning, you can visit our websites at yardleywealth.net and yardleyestate.net. You can also follow us on socials at Yardley Wealth Management. Don't forget to smash the like button if you enjoyed this episode. This podcast has been produced by Madison, Demora, and Mike Garry with technical and artistic help from Poe Productions.